technical meetings with the government, with institutions, trying to work out that framework. So it's not just an academic discussion amongst like-minded people. We've also had some difficult discussions behind closed doors on how we can get funding, how we can move forward, working with government, working with scientists, with Ramsar, with different MEAs. I'm now going to invite Dr. Tej Munkur, who actually opened the conference with a wonderful plenary, to come and give us the conference summary. As we know, Dr. Tej Munkur works on flyways. He's been instrumental in really shaping the role of many flyways across the world. So we're really grateful to have him here. And we really look forward to his advice even after the conference is over, so that we can move forward on the CAF. Dr. Munkur.
Good morning to everyone. It's been a short night for some of us, and so I'm forced to use the notes I have to try and present what has been a truly amazing conference packed into 4 days. When we've tried to arrange the number of presentations and summarize this work, I don't know how we actually did it, but it's happened. And it's just mind-blowing. We've discussed such a wide range of issues, from local to global, and from the involvement of all the stakeholders. So apologies if this summary doesn't do anything to really capture everything that we've discussed. And hopefully the following workshop statement that we've tried to look at actions going forward really helps to focus us all in one direction. If this FLYWAY has to move forward, we have to face the same direction together and work together. So as you know, the International Conference on Wetlands and Migratory Waterbirds of the Asian Flyways, as we know it, has been superbly organized by the BNHS with strong support of the Ministry of Environment and Forests and Climate Change, the Ministry and the Government of Maharashtra, as well as the Mangrove and Marine Biodiversity Conservation Foundation. And this has been partnered with at the international level with BirdLife International. As Neha said, we've had 4 plenaries, 15 panel discussions, 8 technical sessions, 2 workshops, 2 side events, and a lot more discussions in the corridors and over coffee that has made this meeting so meaningful. To have learned perspectives from countries and many flyways around the world, from the short distance and long distance visitors we've had over 80 days. So this has been a real FLYWAY experience in every sense. As we've learned in FLYWAY conservation, success is only when we learn to work together across all sectors of society, locally, nationally, and internationally. We've learned that it's important to learn from experiences of others. There's no time to waste. There's no need to, and we definitely shouldn't try and reinvent the wheel. We don't have the luxury of time anymore. Species, particularly in the Central Asian Flyway, are declining extremely rapidly. One of the critical, we've also learned that while the development of international flyway frameworks, formal frameworks, is a very long road, and certainly for the Central Asian Flyway, we seem to be still heading forward in small steps. Before that happens, we have to stand together, work together, and achieve conservation on the ground and cooperation, because that is the basis for international cooperation, and legal frameworks or whatever frameworks we have to bring us together is just the icing on the cake. We really have to find ways to work together in the meantime. We've learned that it's important to strengthen both protected area networks as well as community conservation reserves, and that by mainstreaming conservation into national and local development plans, there will be the support and the mechanism for implementation of conservation action. One of the critical takeaways of many discussions has been the need of developing a robust national wetland policy that provides the basis for good governance and reducing gaps in the legal provisions for effective conservation. We've learned that the word wetland can mean many different things to many different people in countries. Fortunately, we have the Ramsar Convention that unifies us with one single definition. Further, an effort should also be made at creating a framework of community-based conservation efforts rather than only relying completely on government intervention, which is important but is not the be-all and end-all. This was well highlighted, thank you, in the insightful case study of communities being intimately involved in the conservation of Saras cranes, presented both from across east and west Uttar Pradesh, the world's strongest for this species. As we learned from Ms. Patricia Zurita, the importance and role of society in conservation is extremely important and cannot be stated. This is something that we have to keep pushing for because the public can make a difference when we work together, are involved, and love what we're doing. The Fight for Survival, a campaign involving people and more, is a true good example of how a successful citizen science initiative can help to promote conservation of species and their habitats. One of the priority actions that was highlighted in one of the technical sessions was that for globally threatened large water birds, long-term monitoring of sites in multiple locations is needed, but we also must understand a lot more about their breeding and feeding habits if we are to protect these species, because only when we understand exactly what their needs are can we tailor conservation action to that species in that environment at that time. While this is happening, we need to be looking at other species. And fortunately, there is a good framework that has been working both locally, nationally, and regionally, linking people and this is often called the Asian Bird Census that has been developed jointly in India with BirdLife International partner BNHS and Wetlands International. And this provides a global framework for conservation action. The insightful presentation by Tris on sensitivity mapping to avoid conflict has helped to better understand the needs of migratory species and for proper planning on a flyway scale. And these are lessons learned that could be well applied in this region and this flyway in order to mitigate the level of collision risk between birds at sites and renewable energy infrastructure and power lines, for example. We are aware and strongly support the need for improving the way we produce energy, but we need to do so in a way that does not impact on species and habitats. The critically endangered spoonbill sandpiper did feature frequently in our sessions. This little charismatic bird seems to have caught the attention of everybody. And we've learned that the International Spoonbill Sandpiper Conservation Project and linked conservation efforts appear to have, for the moment, stabilized decline. And those words need to be remembered with caution because things are changing for this species and its habitat. There is a glimmer of hope for shorebird enthusiasts, wetland managers, after being really exposed to the grave reality of extinction of this Arctic breeding species. It cannot be emphasized enough about the importance of the yellow sea that provides extremely and critical habitat for its stopover on its migration to South and Southeast Asia, including to the Indian subcontinent. Without these safe places to stop, rest, feed, they aren't going to get here in the future, and this is just one of many species that depends on the yellow sea. David Melville's presentation was a real revelation of the of these birds and a reality check on the conservation of coastal mudflats. But I think we've learned that where there is a will, there is a way. When the government wants to make a difference, it can. And the Chinese government's decision last year to stop reclamation of coastal wetlands and to manage and restore these wetlands provides the hope for this and many other species. This is a lesson for us all in this and other flyways. We've learned that long-term studies undertaken by the Global Flyway Network in collaboration with others has revealed the importance of site connectivity, and satellite tracking studies have helped to identify previously unknown stopover sites for this species that together form a critical network of sites along the flyway that need to be protected and better managed if we are to conserve these species. We learned about multiple effects of climate change on birds, and this was brought home by Courtney Price in her presentation. Everyone was really stunned when they saw what the changes are happening in the Arctic, how rapidly they are taking place, what the impacts of those are in the Arctic, but around the world, because the flyways of the Arctic connect the world, including down here to the Central Asian flyway. We learned that for species such as the curlew sandpiper, the ongoing change in the peak availability of food in the Arctic means the chicks either survive or they die. And that mismatch is increasing for many species, and we need to understand more and find ways to try and deal with that, if at all we could do that. But it's not only in the Arctic that we need to look at dealing with this species, because the curlew sandpiper comes down to South and Southeast Asia, and habitats are being degraded here in the flyway, along the flyway, with pressures of hunting and site reclamation. We have satisfaction that India will be soon drafting a conservation action plan for the curlew sandpiper by taking of all involved and identifying opportunities and priority actions. So let's see how we can use such a framework for promoting the conservation of this species, but also as a flagship for conservation of coastal and intertidal mudflats into the future. The issue of mudflats was raised several times, and this is a particular concern because usually mudflats are not recognized as important in their own role in the environment. They're seen as a place to plant mangroves or build ports or undertake other development activities, not recognizing that these brown areas actually play a hugely important role for the sustenance of all these migratory shorebirds and many other waterbirds around the world, besides playing an important role for inshore fisheries. So these habitats need to be protected and better managed. And we've learned that with climate change and sea level rise, these wetlands could be lost most quickly. And we have to plan and think long term on how to manage coastal areas such that with the sea level rise, intertidal areas can be managed into the future, which often means think retreat and not concretizing our course. We will surely have a lot to discuss on the implication of actions suggested and initiated through the exciting meeting we had yesterday on the Arctic Migratory Bird Initiative, the first such meeting of this initiative in India that aims to address the habitat loss, poaching or hunting or illegal killing, depending on which country you are. These words are different, but they mean the same. It's taking of birds that they shouldn't be done. Filling knowledge gaps, and we know that this now provides a basis for India and partners to think and work together on what can be done over the coming period of time to deal with the issue, both in South Asia, but right up in the Arctic, because that's the opportunity with the Arctic Migratory Bird Initiative. This is a long meeting. The importance of understanding barriers to implementation of well-defined wetland management plans to benefit people and the environment was emphasized by Dr. Siddharth Kaul and others in a side event 2 days ago. We learned that wetland management often means little or no management action, and that is an important take-home message. We don't have to do anything to manage wetlands. They look after themselves. We just don't need to get in their way. We also learned that it's important to avoid infrastructure development focused on people's needs at these wetlands rather than needs of biodiversity or wetlands themselves. Yesterday afternoon, we had an excellent session on corporates and conservation that provided some wonderful examples, real examples of how industry is working with conservationists to conserve species and habitats in different parts of the world. We learned that the road to conservation and working with corporates can be long, and this is needed solutions to come up that benefit both industry and biodiversity. But it is possible. We learned that it's more important to start thinking about the cost of the environment by the business as part of its sourcing of raw materials rather than an external cost. And this, if properly accounted for, will allow for better planning and management of industrial activities as well as protection to the environment. And this is what will make business sustainable now and into the future. And with sustainable business, we sustainable environment. Something that probably many of you realized is this conference offered an excellent opportunity for many young researchers and scientists to present their work. And we've had such amazing studies that have been showcased over the various sessions and in the sessions. And I think this gives us hope that people are interested, people are committed, they want to study, and conferences like offer a place to showcase the work, learn from each other, and redirect their research and conservation efforts into the future. So I think this is wonderful. I'd like to end by saying apologize again for not doing justice to all the great outcomes of this meeting. Fortunately, the workshop statement should pick up on some of these key priorities. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Mudkur. As I mentioned earlier, we were also trying in this conference to come up with a plan or a way forward, a policy framework, and identify some priorities. So we've been burning, a small team been burning the midnight oil since yesterday and the last few days, and we have identified some priorities that need to be worked on as we go forward. And now I invite my colleague, Dr. Ramesh, to please come and tell us what the priorities are.
Thank you, Nega. It was not midnight actually. You left at midnight. We were there till 5 o'clock. Okay, I think I'll just read out from the sheet I'm having. And before going into the actual declaration, reading out of a declaration, I must thank on behalf of BNHS, the drafting team, Dr. Tej and Dr. Nicola. You must have a look at Nicola's mobile she's having. It is saying like 3:55 in the morning, and at that point of time only we are around the 80% of declaration. And Satya and Neeta ma'am, she was instrumental, and of course Bala, Tricia, Nega, and publication team, and I missed Courtney's name. She has also given some valuable points. So I'm not going into all the points because to take another hour. So I'm just reading points. After on the sessions we came with some of the key following priority actions need to be taken in the forthcoming years. So the first one is to encourage more collaboration between countries and organizations along the Central Asian Flyway, including between the art in India. Thank you, Karni. This is your point. And to update population estimation and trends of water to support designation and management of Ramsar sites and other wetlands in CAF. And address the knowledge gaps in migratory strategies and habitat usage of key species through coordinated bird ringing, color marking, and satellite GSM geolocated tracking. And encouraging researchers, civil society, including agriculture and local communities to collect and analyze the bird migration and population data to help identify conservation issues, and to for developing a bird sensitivity map for renewable energy and transmission lines along Central Asian Flyway led by the BirdLife Partnership. In fact, India, we are into the job, and hope this will help in developing for the whole of the Asia. And encourage Central Asian countries to develop national level action plans for the migratory birds and their habitats and implement them on ground, using as an example India's CAF National Action Plan. Throughout this conference and the government meeting we had parallelly, I was most of the participants were really like the idea of national action plan brought by India, and they were like really like the idea and want to replicate in the other countries of the Central Asian Flyway range. And to promote regular disease surveillance in waterbirds at key CAF sites and sharing of information among the range states. And to ascertain the institutional framework for migratory bird and habitat conservation in the Central Asian Flyway, building on CMS and A with the leadership from the Government of India in fulfillment of their pledge made at CMS. And to undertake further research on climate change in the Arctic and monsoon connections and their impacts on migratory birds and their habitats along the flyways. Thank you, Gurtni, again. Then encourage the enactment of national policies in CAF to seek to prevent further wetland reclamation and to encourage wetland ecosystem restoration within and beyond protected areas. And to undertake a review of scale, scope, and motivations of illegal hunting, taking, and local and transboundary trade of migratory birds in the CAF in line with the established BirdLife methodology, including to identify key illegal poaching and trade locations and develop mitigation mechanisms to curb it, develop identification manuals, training workshops for enforcement of wildlife laws, and options for alternative livelihood for traditional bird trapping communities and tribes. Strengthen the implementation of regulation on sand mining in riverine habitats that provide critical nesting habitats for endangered migratory species such as Indian skimmer and black-bellied tern, and to encourage the enactment of national policies in CAF to seek to prevent further, I think I am reading it again, encourage cooperation between India's Ministry of Earth Science and Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change to explore possibility to develop surveys targeting ambi species, priority species such as curlew sandpiper, spoonbill sandpiper, lesser white-fronted goose in priority sites in the Indian subcontinent, and to facilitate the exchange of experts and build capacity. These are some key points. I have missed out many of the points, but this resolution or declaration will be uploaded in the BNHS website so that you all can go and share your views. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh. So it was all just policy and law and environmental events. It was also me very young researchers, students, and giving them a platform, giving them the exposure to see how things can work and to listen to their research. So one of the parts of the conference was just sitting here and listening to so many different kinds of studies that have happened on wet and migratory birds in India. We are going to be giving out awards. I'm going to announce the winners now. We will give the certificates after the ceremony. But let us listen to who have won and give them a big hand. So in poster presentation, we have 2 awards for best posters. The first is Dhaval Kumar Vara, who got it. He had a poster, yes, you can come here. He had a poster on the Asian waterbird census support on the wetlands. Study was 2015 to 2019. We have Kalpana Chawla, who presented on She presented on the distribution of macrobenthic community along the spatial and vertical gradient in the mudflats of Thane Creek and Sivri. And I think her poster really showed us how important even urban areas are for migratory birds and benthic communities. Thank you. We have 3 awards for the oral presentation, which spanned over 2 days. The first one goes to Sameer Bajru. Sameer, are you here? He presented art of shorebird abundance on the flats of Bombay. Mumbai. Vishwanathan, who presented on population trends and fine-scale migration patterns of India's waterbirds. So basically insights from citizen science. Is Ashwin here? Okay. And the third was to Parveen Sheikh. She presented on skimming the chambal. Yes, please come. She looked at the breeding status of the Indian sperm in the National Chambal Sanctuary. Don't be so shy, it's all right. Congratulations, and we'll be giving out the certificates after this award ceremony is done. I now invite Patricia Zurita to give us some remarks on the conference.
Neha. I don't know what happened with my technology. Hold on. I probably have to do this. There we go. Representatives of the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy, the academia, and all the civil society who has been involved in the organization of this international conference on wetlands and migratory birds of the Asian flyways. We know the titanic job that it is to get one of these meetings organized, and I cannot not thank the Bombay Natural History Society and the incredibly capable staff of what I feel incredibly proud to say is BirdLife in India. Without you guys, we would not have been here. And I'm even more proud because the staff who was behind the organization of this incredible meeting, all of them are under 35. So this is the young generation. When I say that, it makes me feel really old, so I'm part of you guys, okay? No, but you guys are the future, and this infuses hope. Now, all of you guys together, with the Indian government and the rest of the Indian society have brought us from all over the world here. And your leadership is demonstrating, the leadership that you are demonstrating, not only to this region, but to the world, is impressive and encouraging at times when all the news that we're hearing about our planet and our home are dire. Our future is compromised by the loss of nature and the change of our climate. A double whammy that needs to be addressed and that we need to address to help other species adapt to as soon as possible. Your leadership, helping us and guiding us through how to make this work, is impressive and energizes us. It has been an extraordinary and packed week with huge amount of new and impressive information, great interaction and networking, but above all, an incredible sense of hope and collaboration to work beyond borders to protect not only the birds that we all love, but especially the sites that they use that are critical to our own survival. These sites not only wetlands, but grasslands, mangroves, coastal areas, are critical habitats not only for our feathery friends, but incredibly important for our own survival. And that's what matters to the decision makers that are having the fate of the planet in their hands. So don't forget this, the Sustainable Development Goals. We have to make more linkages between the Asian flyways, the work that we are doing with conserving our birds, and the way that people are thinking about development. And the more that we actually link this through wetlands, through water, through the relationship to local communities, the more successful we're going to be. I'm leaving with this great sense of hope, not only because you all are incredibly great people, and we've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot from many of you, but especially because this conference has managed to bring all sectors of our society together. We have had civil society, we have had academia, we have had citizen science, we have had volunteers, we have had the Defense Force representatives, government officials, and the private sector. All of us talking about how do we work together. This has helped us identify that we all have a role to play and emphasize that only if we bring all these pieces of the jigsaw together, we will make it happen. And not only for the birds, but for us. I'm incredibly grateful to have been here and been able to put the BirdLife International Partnership to the service not only to the Asian and Central Asian partners, but to all of you, and to all the ones that we have to engage for the success of the conservation of the Central Asian flyway. As I mentioned to you all on Tuesday, and you heard it from Neha and Tesh, this effort will only be successful if we join forces. And that spirit of togetherness and willingness to collaborate is something that we have been able to breathe this week. On the corridors, during the presentations and the discussions, during the meals, and I'm sure some of you, like me, during our dreams, not the ones who didn't sleep last night. You heard the extraordinary list of priorities that Ramesh read, and I have to thank my colleagues from BNHS, Nicola from the RSPB, Tesh from Wetlands International for being up until 4 in the morning today. I abandoned them at 10:30. Sorry. But in my defense, I was on the phone until like 2. Now, it is the time to put these priorities in action. And I'm hopeful because thanks to the fantastic effort of this week, we have managed to bring the BirdLife partners together to build a first sketch of our common action plan for what we are calling now the CAFI. CAFI is the Central Asia Flyway Initiative. But this is not only about BirdLife partners and how we can work together. It's way beyond that. It is for all of us who are learning from the development plans like the Indian National Plan and how we can use this as an example for the others who are trying to engage their governments, their civil society, and their local communities to develop these national plans in all the other countries of the Central Asia Flyway. It is clear to me that we know a lot, but there's a lot more that we don't know and that we have to learn. However, while we advance our research in a very changing planet, as Courtney mentioned, and you scared the hell out of me yesterday, that's all right. That's what we need to do. We have to act. So we have to bring research and action together. And it's more important than ever that we don't wait to know everything. And that remember that the perfect is the enemy of the good, and that we have to go with our gut and our knowledge. We have done this before. We have done it in other flyways. We can make it happen in the Central Asia Flyway. Again, a huge thanks to India, because of the leadership that you are demonstrating. A huge thanks to BNHS and your fantastic staff for all your support, for your hard work, for being so true champions of birds and nature, not only in India, but throughout the world. Thanks so much for your patience. Thanks so much for all your hard work and energy. Keep it up. We need you there. We're behind you. And have a wonderful trip back wherever you're going, migrating back. We will see you hopefully in February when some of you will come back to the COP of the CMS. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. This conference has been in the planning for a long time, and we have many, many people to thank and acknowledge. I'd like to invite Dr. Deepak Apte, the director of the Bombay Natural History Society, to please give the vote of thanks. And I must add here that I think I was in one of the initial meetings when this conference was first discussed. And that was a long time ago, almost 1.5 years ago. So it's been in the planning for 1.5 years, and that's kind of the amount of time it takes to get all these migratory birds together. But we made it happen, and it has been his brainchild. So please, Dr. Apte, the vote of thanks.
I usually speak ex-tempo, but this is something which I need to read out because there are just too many. And I'm going to take that time because there's need to acknowledge, all these people without whom this conference wouldn't have been, for last 5 days. First and foremost, of course, Government of India. There are many ministries who helped us this to happen, especially Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, who almost 6 months ago given us endorsement to do this jointly with us, which is a remarkable feat. Usually ministry don't give, these approvals, so early. Usually they give us 3-4 days beforehand. Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Home Affairs, we are extremely grateful for them for very expeditious political and security clearances for all our foreign delegates, because just 3 weeks before the conference, our Indian mission started sending application back saying that you do not have these 2 clearances. And I'm extremely grateful for one gentleman who really helped us get this in the most expeditious way, 24 hours, both the clearances, is Mr. A.K. Jain, who was Additional Secretary previously in Ministry, now the Secretary of Coal, and is a very good dear friend of personally me and BNHS. And I'm grateful for him to really make this happen so that all my international delegates could arrive here on time. Ministry of Finance is key to, making sure that our files for financial supports are cleared, in a very rapid, pace. Indian Air Force and Indian Navy very generously accepted our offer to come and present on a very serious issue of bird hazard. And we could have actually very serious discussion with the members of both Indian Air Force and Navy, with the officials of ministry in a closed door meeting during the conference. Shri Prakash Javadekar, Minister of Environment Forest, Minister of Information Broadcasting and Minister of Heavy Industries. I think when I spoke to him about this conference a few months ago, he said, go ahead, we will be behind you. Whatever you need, if you're stuck, you call me, we will be there. And I'm very, very thankful for Honorable Minister for being there for us for this conference. Shri Babul Supriyo, again Minister of State, who actually could come down despite being a session on and spend, whatever little time he could spend with us, and he delivered a really excellent extempo, speech during the conference. Mr. C.K. Mishra, Secretary of Ministry of Environment Forest, Siddhanta Das, DG, Director General of Forest, Mr. M.S. Negi, Soumitra Dasgupta, who's been really the driving force, who really stood very strongly with us for last almost 6 months to make sure that we get all necessary support of ministry. He was really the focal point for us to execute this conference. Unfortunately, he could not come because he has to be in Bonn, for the meeting of CMS. Mr. Praveen Garg, Additional Secretary, Finance in Ministry of Environment Forest, to make sure our check is signed on time, and and that's more important. Mr. Rakesh Kumar Jangania is a DIG, Renu Kulli, DIG, who really helped us again to access MEA very quickly. Mr. Gopinath is Joint Director, who was really signing all our files in the ministry. Mr. Roy Thomas, who was here with us for 4 days and is a consultant with ministry. And all PCCFs and Chief Wildlife Wardens who really could make, for the conference. This is an exceptional conference from my point of view, where we have seen almost 19 states forest department representing and almost 11 PCCF and Chief Wildlife Wardens coming and going, which is remarkable for an NGO, conference for so many people could come. whole range of officials, within the Office of Inspector General. I was really harassing them for last 2 months, to make sure that, and they have been absolutely gracious to make sure that, we get everything well in hand before the conference starts. I'm not going to acknowledge individually because it's going to take really long time, but BirdLife International and Wetland International, I think, has been spectacular in terms of the kind of support they have provided while we are developing the themes. So their support is not just for being here for 5 days, but I have been really chasing Tej almost for last 6 months, back and forth, and he's been always there. I mean, he's a BNHS, he's not really Wetland International, in that sense. So we have right over his time, in that sense, and so is the BirdLife International. I think plenaries, of course, as I've said. So plenaries were again exceptional. There are especially, I could not attend really a lot of technical session because I was more of, Darban receiving, guests and making sure that they leave on time and making sure that, my kids could do uninterrupted work. But there are plenaries I made sure that I attend. And really there are 2 plenaries that shook my conscience. Is the last 2 on AMBI. And it's incredible to know that how fragile, this whole migratory, business is. And there's a need to look at very differently. And my whole perception of looking at migratory birds have changed in last 2 presentations. I'm very delighted that you could really come here. It's our privilege rather than, you saying thank you for us. We should say thank you for you that we could actually do that. Because it has given us a completely new direction to look at, Central Asian flyway in that sense. Nicola, I don't know where is she. Her soul must be somewhere. Oh, you're here. Okay. And she's incredible. The kind of energy she brings in, for the discussion, even if you're half dead midnight, her laughter. So I rename her as a laughing babbler. And that's the most wonderful, thing I could take with me forever is thank you, Nicola. You're incredible. I think it's also nice to see some of the CAF range country, people coming in. Though there was a bit of delay in terms of coordination, those things happen at ministry level because of so many things happening simultaneously. We would have loved to have more. Most important part, the amount of finances you require to get such such conference in place is huge. And that's the only skill probably I have to get, to be, which got me to the post of director is really my ability to, manage finances. And yeah, I think the total cost for the conference has been phenomenal. And I would like to take time to acknowledge all my key donors for that. Of course, the Government of India contributed very generously to the conference. We have got 3 large donors. Government of Maharashtra again contributed a significant chunk of funding through Campa. We've got Manguru Foundation. Vasudevan was here the other day, head of Manguru Foundation. They contributed really significantly for the contribution, for the conference. We have MMRDA and CIDCO. MMRDA is basically an autonomous body of Government of Maharashtra. And CIDCO again is an autonomous body of Government of Maharashtra. Contributed hugely. So these 4 or 5 bodies really contributed almost 90% of the funding for the conference. And then we have, a number of other associate donors and platinum donors like Godrej Foundation has contributed as Wellspun India, Microtech Developers, GMR, Hot Mugs, and TVS Motors. So there are a large number of donors came forward in a fairly short span of time. And the most complicated part was actually the technical session. Funding we could actually manage to tie up in just 2 months. So, if you have a good, powerful theme, if you have good, powerful subject, I think donors will come forward to support you because it's, it's something which they want to do it. The point is that who's going to facilitate, between this development and conservation is a challenge. I think that's a niche we need to look at, and fulfill that niche. This conference wouldn't have been possible without all my delegates. So having money is of no use if there are no delegates. And I'm really grateful for such a lovely participation. We kept capacity to only 250, considering the logistics and the venue, and we have full house right from day one till day end. I can see still, people sitting till the last chair. Faria's team has been spectacular. It's not just about, paying money to them for the logistics, but there has to be a heart to make sure that all our, care for the guest is being taken with due attention. And especially Suraj, I don't know whether Suraj is here inside or not, but yeah, he's been incredible, young character in Faria's, and he's a good friend now. Sudhir Sapre, I don't know whether Sudhir is here. Yeah, Sudhir is here behind there. He'll look after all your travels. All your airline bookings, your arrivals, your departures, timely, is done meticulously by Sudhir. Thank you, Sudhir. And he's also BNHS life member, so he's also BNHS. There are a good number of media people covered, this event. You have seen there are a lot of media coverage this conference has been receiving. We have, the whole videography done by Kinnari and her team, and we'll be very happy to share, once we do a bit of edit, and, we'll post for all of the participants the video, footage of all the conference. So those who could not attend some of the session will actually get to listen to those. So allow us about a couple of months, to be able to do that. But we'll definitely get your pen drives in next 2 months with all the video footage and recording of that. I don't know to name anybody of my colleagues. It will be unfair to name few and not to name a few. So the whole BNHS family is, who are part of this conference, who are not here but doing their work, being either at head office or other, offices. You have been incredible, Now I can go and sleep tonight with peace. That the faith I reposed in -35, you have proved worth, and I'm very happy that BNHS is in a very safe and secured hands of this young generation. So it's time for us to retire very soon. Without support of governing council, of any organization, such conference cannot be possible. And right from day one last year when we, suggested that we should host this, I think there was absolute unanimous support. This is the only issue which I have seen unanimous support, without any argument, without any fights in a governing council, is that we must do this. And I really appreciate, that support of the board. We have quite a few number of board members. Dr. Cermony, Debi Goenka was there. Dr. Kothari is there, whom is the president. And some of them could not come because of, exigencies. Dr. Bharucha came for one day for that. I think there are a whole range of, individuals, again, I cannot name them, who, our sound system, our light system, those who are looking at the maintenance of, the whole schedules is incredible. Getting people from 80 different destinations in time on first day and making sure they go home in time, from now on. I don't know how these guys manage their calendars, I think that's where technology helps, you put them into some kind of a software, project management software these kids do, and it gives you to whom to get in, whom to get out, in a timely fashion. So that's it. If anybody I missed, I sincerely apologize, and I have no intention to exclude anybody. But there's just too many for me to last day to, remember. So anybody, everyone who's been part of this conference, all my delegates, all my staff, and BirdLife International, Wetland International, Ministry, incredible. Thank you very much for being here. We will have a quick 30-minute tea break. Don't leave. We have a fantastic function after this for another hour and a half. We are giving Salim Ali and JC Daniel awards, and we have got some incredible, achievers that will be felicitated in just half an hour now. Make sure we make sitting at 10:55 sharp. So we want to start at 11. All winners are here, and please be there. You are here for last 5 days. Stay back for another 2 hours. Thank you very much.